So it will be a bit of a different talk today than what is usually coming in Kubernetes conferences. So it won't be super technical. It will be about what did we do at DKB to introduce project mindset in our platform engineering team, and why this is something that could be interesting for you as well. So DKB, you might probably be aware of DKB if you're in Germany. DKB is an online bank which was started in Berlin, so very uncommon for a bank in Germany because it was actually started in the last month of East Germany. It was the first private bank in East Germany. And DKB is focusing on private customers, so you might know about that part, credit card payment and so on. And also DKB is an investment bank which has specific focus on some areas like renewable energies, like housing. So we're not investing in everything, but only some specific areas. My name is Stéphane Di Cesare. So as you probably hear, I come from France. I've been living in Munich for a long time. I've been working for a bit more than a year at DKB in a team called Platform Experience. So Platform Experience is the team that's a bit of the interface between our infrastructure platform team and the various users. Before that, I've been working in technology consulting and different other jobs, infrastructure automation, also with in sales as sales engineer, which is actually quite interesting when you come to a product mindset afterwards. I am a member of the CNCF working group platforms, which is part of the app delivery tag. And I'm always interested in languages and linguistics. I've studied it a bit in the past. And so this is where we started from. So our infrastructure platform was put together between different infrastructure teams, and this is what it covers. So we have the DevOps platform part, CI/CD, and so on. We have infrastructure. We have the platform orchestration with, of course, Kubernetes, and we are using a lot of cross-plane as well. At the moment, we are extending into IDP, into providing more direct features for the developers. And what we don't have is the data part, which is done somewhere else by us, and things like API gateway and so on. And so what was interesting for us is that unlike some other teams, so we, at the time this team was formed, we already had a working container platform built on Crossplane. So technically, it was usable, it was working. But we noticed when it started that the communication had a lot of focus on infrastructure. The platform was actually easy to use as long as you know infrastructure already. But of course, the point is to help people who don't know much about infrastructure to provision some infrastructure easily. And there was this sentence I heard in the beginning, it's supposed to be platform as product. So then when I started, then first question I asked is, what does this actually mean for our team? And so the challenges we focused on in the beginning is how can we show the value of the platform? So we came to a point where we have something that works, we have many people working on that platform, and finance team comes and say, well, what are these people actually doing? What does it bring for the bank? And we wanted to look as well at what is the state of the platform, and how can we improve? How can we show where we are and show in which direction we want to go? And some points we were looking at is also to improve the interface with the users. So all the users, very often I hear Platform engineering is about improving the way to use infrastructure for developers, but this is only one part of the users. There are other users in the platform as well, and there is value for everybody. We wanted also to decrease the cognitive loads and to allow basically to abstract, so both technical parts of the infrastructure and also, since we're a bank, to make compliance easier, because we can't expect that all the developers know about all the various compliance requirements, because it's a full-time job. You can't know everything and do development at the same time. So some topics I'm going to talk about today is what we did to define the platform, to tell what the scope is, what are we actually doing, what is covered, what is not covered. Look at the platform maturity, so where we are and where we can go in the long term. So look at the product mindset, so what does that mean and why is it helpful? And also look at the information. So how do we communicate? How is documentation working? How can we share information about the platform? So first, let's look at what we use for definition. So we have a platform architecture, also platform definition. So this is not an architecture as you could think about technically. So these are not technical components. These are capabilities or features. And we divided it in 3 areas. So first is the user layer. So this is all the capabilities that are directly connected to users. So for example, which resources you can order, also how you can use infrastructure as code, how you communicate in general. There is an infrastructure layer on the bottom, which is basically the engine, what's under the hood. How do we do orchestration, what kind of environment we are running on, and so on. And a common layer, so this is all practices and guidelines to use for security, for cost control, things like how do you do tagging, how do you do observability, so that everybody can get the value from the platform centrally. And important, as I was saying, up there, one of the kind of users are actually these ones, the external product team, so people developing software on the platform, but there are also, you have compliance, security, finance are using the platform and they want to get some value from it. You have to think also, it's important to think also about the internal users, about people like platform developers, operations, who are building and using the platform at the same time. And so if you want there are some other reference platform architectures. I've written a few here. So if you want some reference. And then, so inside these boxes, we try to define the capabilities. And an important thing is to make a separation between basically the problem and the solution. This is quite difficult because it's, for engineers, it's quite common to go directly into the solution. For many of the engineers, it sounds like a waste of time to think about the problem, but it's also important when you have a lot of users that they can have a reference where they see what are actually the problems which are tackled by the platform and what are the possible solutions we are thinking about and in which status they have. So for this reason, we have a part which is description of the use case, so who wants to do what and the value, for which reason. So value doesn't necessarily mean money, but you should be able to understand if this use case, what would it bring for whom? And then we have different solutions. So this is a living document. So we look at, for some topics, it might be, the first step would be, here is documentation on the internet about how to do this. Then second step might be maybe some more specific documentation for us, best practices. When you are at DKB, you're using, you need to interact with this tool and this tool, so it's best to do it that way. And then you can go to automation. And typically with many people, they would go, if they see a problem, they would go to automation straight away. So let's automate it. But it's also very important to keep track of the know-how, what we are actually doing. When something is automated, it doesn't disappear. You still need to have people who understand how it works. And then we use this for to document where can we find documentation and where is the responsibility. So this doesn't scale, I have to say. Because for the moment, this is tables in Confluence. So if you have a better way of visualizing this with a tool, so something else than, so Jira is quite good for that part, for the solutions. It's not, we haven't found a good way to use it to document the use cases. So if you know of a good way to document this, then you're very welcome to talk in the end. Then about platform maturity. So we are using the CNCF platform maturity model, which is official since about a year, I think, which is a very good way to show the state of the platform, to look at where you are, which challenges do you have, and how you can improve. If you want an introduction, so there is the document here. There is Nicky Watts did a very good talk explaining a bit more in depth. So this document as well explains in detail what is meant by each step. And then this is very helpful to develop a strategy. Then you can look at, you can explain that if we go from here to here, then we would that would bring this benefit, and this is very useful to talk with higher management to explain we want to go in that direction because we want to improve this and that, with people who are not necessarily deep technical. Then let's talk about product mindset. So that there are, this is it's interestingly a quite new area for many people with an infrastructure background. This is something that's coming in a lot more for developers. So we could see it at DKB because the teams who are more user-facing, people like internet banking, are already working a lot this way. So iterating a lot with product discovery, trying to understand what the users want, and iterating from there. This is not very often working like that with the infrastructure at the moment. And the summary I would say is that product mindset means that you think about the value. You think about why I am doing this, what does it bring for whom? And what's important is that a team working with a product mindset, so I will just read, is tasked with problems to solve. So tasked with problems means not with a solution. So you don't want to have people coming from the outside and telling you, we need a service mesh. We need, the users must come with a problem, and then it's the responsibility of the team to decide on the solution, according to also other requirements that might come from other kinds of users. And an important part of product mindset is the team is accountable for the outcome and not for the output. So the important thing is what is the value you bring for the users, and not how many story points you're doing per month or something like that, which is output, or how many incidents do you fix. So it's important to come back to what connects with the user value. There was a couple of months ago a very good talk about this. If you want to watch a video, it was at the AWS Summit in Berlin, I think, by Dominic Kress from Giant Swarm. And there are some good books. So I especially like Transformed, which is a very new book, which is 2 months old, I think, from Marty Kagan, which is very practical about how to use product management generally, not only for infrastructure. Team topologies is a lot about how to organize teams and especially how to organize the communication between teams. And the last one, Escaping the Build Trap, is a lot about outcome and output, especially for software. So how to avoid focusing on things like velocity instead of what is the end goal of the user. So then we had, at DKB, we had this big platform team, and we were starting to think, what is our product exactly? How can we define our product? And also, how many products do we have? Because we had teams working with networking, working with VM workloads, working with cloud native. In the beginning, the idea was we have this is all one product, and we found out that this is quite difficult to get it to work. So we were wondering how to split between products. And we agreed on we need first to have to keep the decision at the platform team level, and so not to have the decision outside, because if the people outside, if the users decide on the solutions, then at some point you don't really need a platform team anymore. And these people also don't always have all the real requirements in mind. They might think about time to market, but not about security and how easy it is to follow up the cost, for example. And that's the value of the platform team. And we also decided to define a product as a part of the platform that is clearly identifiable for the platform users. So it's if you need to explain, to have a long explanation about is this feature in this product or that product, it means you don't have a good definition. It must be very clear. So one example we had, which is here, is between container platform and VM platform. That's quite clear for most of the people. What is the difference between the two? There is a big difference in principle, but that basically if your application is mostly, or at least your components are mostly stateless, then it probably fits here. If they are not, you should go there. And then we look at capabilities, so the features I was showing in the platform definition. So these are basically copy-paste between the different platforms. The idea is to have the same kind of reference architecture, but they might be implemented in different ways. So if you want to order compute resources, it will be different kinds of resources if you're on a container platform rather than a VM platform. And trying to work that way is improving first that we try to put the information at this level so that we decouple the actual teams doing the work and the product. And it helps having common documentation and also making information independent of the actual teams. And this allows us as well to be able to work on, for example, change the responsibility of a feature from one team to the other without needing to inform everybody that now there is someone else working on this, because the information is mostly shared at the product level. Some challenges we had. So there was in some parts a lot of Scrum. Scrum already has a product owner role, but product owner in Scrum in practice is something different than a product manager, because in practice product owners tend to focus a lot on the delivery. And we have the backlog. How do I do as much as possible from the backlog as possible in my sprint and so on, and tend to focus less on looking at what is the value we actually bring to the customer. So it's actually in Scrum, but in practice, I saw that after a few sprints, the backlogs becomes very big, and the product owner becomes mostly a backlog manager. So we try to clarify the responsibility, so to be sure that someone has this responsibility to look at product discovery, and it can be delegated, but to be sure that the responsibility comes back to the product owner or product manager. We had something as well, which I call team encapsulation, that very often people in a Scrum team are trying to protect the engineers from the outside to avoid that everybody contacts people directly, for example, for support, which is a good point. But the drawback is it splits the engineers from the end users. And then the engineers try to develop on their own ideas of what to fix without having a lot of contact with the users. So we are trying to improve, to have more activities where there is collaboration. For example, shadowing is very valuable to have an engineer work together half an hour or an hour with an end user, or a platform user at least. And this, I can guarantee you that every time you will see the light bulb on top of the head of the engineer very, very often, that, oh, they're actually doing it that way. It happens to me nearly every time I do something like that. And also what I was talking about before, to some users, so this is typical, for example, from security, trying to force an implementation for a specific requirement. So something we have very often is security sees some regulation and says, we must do this now. And it's really important in that case to look at the whole picture. So, looking at some specific security regulation might make your whole workflow very complicated, for example, and then you have to find a middle way how to look at this security issue the best way possible, so that the developers and users are not wasting a lot of time because of complicated process. And now a few words about information. We had also the issue, as we had people coming from a different background, people coming from Scrum, people coming from ITSM, we had to find a common language. And you are not going to find the true definition of a specific word, so you have to find some agreement to agree what do we mean by service, what do we mean by product, platform, architecture, and so on. And if it's difficult to agree on one definition, I think prefixing works very well. So if you, for example, tell people don't talk about service, talk about ITSM service or a Kubernetes service, so that it's clear which context you are in. And also, so communication, you saw in the platform definition, this is a feature of the platform as well. So this is something where you need to think about what are the needs of the users, how can you make things easier for the different kinds of users, so the people working on the platform, but also the developers. And you have to find a balance between streamlining things and also covering all the use cases. What I saw a lot is that for the technical teams, communication is very often focusing on incident management. Typical, if someone, for example, has a question, say, please open a ticket. But this is one kind of channel in which might work in some cases, but sometimes someone just has a question, I don't find the documentation for this and that, and it might work in another channel. And then this is a different use case. You have to think about it. because these people won't have the same requirement. It won't be, for example, important to trace the request. It's probably okay if they don't get the right answer. If someone tells them quickly, this is not well documented, we have to look at it. At least they know. Or please look there, and then you know that, okay, so maybe the way our documentation is organized is not very good because the people are not finding their way around it. And so then I come to the last point, documentation. So this is what we try to organize a bit our documentation. Typically what you would think about documentation is this part, so the technical part, but there is also, so the orange would be the architecture, and then there is all the high-level documentation as well. What is the product? How do we communicate? How do we talk to us? What are the rules that apply for us, and so on. And here as well, it's part of the product, so you have to think about the different use cases. So we looked a lot at shadow documentation. So people outside might document things in the platform, and you need to follow this up. So it's really difficult to force everybody to use the same medium. So then you can look at least following up what other teams are doing and trying to bring them in little by little. And so what we are looking for the future. So first, feedback about this presentation. We would welcome it if you think that if you have a better idea from one of the topics, I'm very interested. And what we are looking internally is to improve how people communicate with us, how to bring people to participate, so because that way we have a better view of the user needs. And also trying to encourage engineers not to jump to the solution and looking at the problem first. And we are hiring. We have a few positions open, both cloud engineers mostly at the moment, DevOps engineers. So you're welcome to have a look here if you're interested. Yeah. Then thanks for your time. So there is still a little bit of time for questions.
Hi, I'm Michael here. I actually have a question regarding how do you convince management to get people on your platform team to do the support that you're talking about, to do the, for us it's very difficult to, be able to convince our management that we get the proper resources to consult our teams. And this has always been an issue, and maybe you have some hints on that. How you did that?
So the question was how to convince the management. So I think you probably think about people like board and so on at that level, right? To provide more resources to the platform. Yes, yeah. So I think the main value, the main point is to think about, to look at what the value is for them. One topic for us which was really important, for example, was the cost control, and to gain the ability for finance teams to connect infrastructure costs and product teams, which we didn't really have before. And this is something that's much easier to argue on than improving developer productivity, which everybody understands is good, but it's difficult to put a number on it.
Hi, many thanks. I understand the standard operation platform of GKB was not always that way. Can you elaborate on how long the learning curve was until going the product-only approach?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you well.
Let me rephrase. I understand DKB did not always take the product first approach of the platform. Can you elaborate on how long the learning curve was until they went that way?
So we are still in the middle of the process. So the chance we had is that the most of the upper management was already convinced that this was a good thing to do because they had the example of product teams like internet banking who did a very good job with a product approach. And basically, we are trying to work to work downwards to convince the local managers, which is getting better now, and also the engineers that this is something that's important for them to follow. I think for the engineers, I really have the impression that it's the best way is by example. So what will work is there is someone in the team who gets it, starts to work that way, and it's more effective, and the others see it. I think a presentation is not going to work for the engineers, so they will need to have the facts and to really see that there is someone who is getting more effective that way, or is getting his features. We can more easily convince people to implement the features the way he wants, or something like that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Stefan. If there's any more questions, he is all day around, I hope.
Yes, I will.
Perfect. A round of applause for him, please.
Yeah, thank you very much.